Here's a Beyond the Pitch podcast quick hit from the WVSA Digital Network.
No one really enjoys single leg work because it's double the amount of reps, but it's also way more specific to how humans move. And as you're training athletes, bilateral two leg lifts are great for very high levels of output, but they're also not teaching the body necessarily. It's not really specific to how we move, because generally speaking, when we're doing things and running and cutting and any sort of athletic activity, it's usually taking place on one leg, and usually whatever is happening on one side of the body, the opposite is happening on the other. So for example, if you are extending one leg, you're probably flexing the other leg. And you can go into different types of rotation, like internal rotation on one side, external rotation on the other. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is when you do a bilateral lift, what you're trying to tell the body to do is, I want you to do one thing on both sides of the body at the same exact time. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But if you only train yourself like that, then that's not going to have a lot of carryover to when you actually need to start moving like a human in locomotion activities. So I think that's a consideration that often doesn't go considered that much. And most people say single leg because most of life takes place on one leg. But why does it take place on one leg? It's because the body was meant to naturally alternate between these different types of joint actions, not necessarily do the same thing on both sides. And also, if you have any degree of muscle imbalance, or you have any degree of one side is more dominant than the other at one point in a joint action, and you do a bilateral movement, then you're probably going to have one side do a little bit more work. So you can make sure that doesn't happen by at least balancing it out with some degree of unilateral single leg or single arm activities.